For the past few months, I've been making remastering Avatar videos as a fun little side project with the added benefit of trying out animation for the first time. For this video, I wanted to see if I learned anything from my time expanding the world of Avatar. That's why, as a new personal project, I'll be working on my first ever animation attempt with the lessons I learned from expanding on my favorite show. The first main roadblock I ran into was the idea portion of the video. Remastering Avatar was simple in the sense that the work I needed to do was already set up, and I just had to work on the sidelines. However, for this particular task, I have a blank canvas with absolutely no idea where to go with it. The second roadblock was my lack of confidence in my artistic ability. Now, going back to the idea portion, I do know that a bouncing ball is technically how most people start out with these projects, at least from what I'm assuming, kind of like the Hello World for animators. So I figured to make my first animation project, I'll do an homage to that. The bouncing ball part, not the Hello World part. Before we get started, please leave a like if you enjoy, subscribe if you want to see more, but most importantly, please enjoy this video. I'm a big fan of watching football, both the NFL and college, and that's why the very first portion of our animation would be this character, which is just a stick figure for now throwing a football. I pulled up a bunch of references to make sure I got the outline down. I also used the onion layer to stitch the frames together, and for those of you that don't know, the onion layer is a tool that allows you to view the frames that are adjacent to the one you're currently on. I did end up regretting the color choice for the outline, as you'll see in a little bit, but as of now I was grooving along to the simple lines indicating a QB's favorite motion, and what a great motion it is. As the ball leaves his hands, so does my focus. I created a football shape to the best of my ability, but honestly I think I ended up just drawing an almond. But as we go along the frames, I wanted the perspective of the football to go from this almond to a more spherical shape.
And it's spherical! Spherical!
Basically, I wanted it to look like the camera was rotating from the side of the football to the back as we follow the ball to our next portion of the animation. As the camera perspective shifts, so does the ball as well, and now we go from American football to soccer football. I chose soccer, or again football as known in other parts of the world, as the next sequence because I've been playing this great sport every week for the past 2 years and I'm just addicted. Just like the quarterback, I made an outline of the goalie attempting to block the ball from entering this invisible net. I once again pulled up reference images and videos and got to working on the figuring of the stick variety. As the ball gets punched out of the outstretched arms of the goalie, I wanted to finish off the video with an alley-oop. This was created very quickly as well since it's just like drawing Hangman without the letters. I also added a hoop to add some context to the scene and to place the character as well. Here's how the very rough animation looks so far. I liked how the football and basketball section turned out, at least to an extent, but I absolutely despised how I animated the goalie. He didn't look smooth and that part just went by way too quickly, and it was at this point that I knew that I was going to end up changing the animation, just not yet since I didn't really know what to do with it, so I decided to push forward with boxier outlines. Like before, I started with the quarterback and this process was a lot of fun. I first lowered the opacity of the previous layers and got to work. It was nice seeing the stick figures taking shape, quite literally, and seeing how these frames flow together. I mentioned how I regretted the color choice of the outline earlier, and the reason for that is due to the color of the stick figure and the color of the onion layer being very identical. It was hard to tell which line was from the stick figure layer and which line was from the frame prior. Even though I knew I was going to change up this goalie portion of the video, I decided to make him boxy in the meantime as I thought up new ways to tackle soccer. The process was very similar to the QBs, and the same can be said for the basketball player. Once I finished with the boxy outlines, I attempted to change up the goalkeeper animation. I erased the goalie from existence and thought maybe I could do something with a player trapping the ball with his chest, and then maybe crossing the ball over to the basketball animation, but then I quickly found out that I don't have the mental or physical capacity for that. So I simply introduced my fingers to the Ctrl-Z keys and got back to work till I thought of some other idea. Choosing to forget the shame of my prior failure, it was time to give my guy some hair and some clothes. I wasn't too worried about making each frame look perfect or look too smooth, since I knew that I would never be satisfied with my work if I held myself up to that expectation, especially for my first animation. Instead, I just wanted the motion to flow somewhat realistically. This took significantly more time than the stick figure or the boxy outline, which is very obvious and one might wonder why I even mentioned it at all, but all in all, I consider this to be a very relaxing task. I think working on all the action sequences of Avatar trained me and my patience very well. I begrudgingly shifted onto the middle child of this animation, and the one that I kept wanting to change, but as of yet, I couldn't think of what I wanted to do, so I still decided to quickly give him the same treatment. And the same can be said for the basketball player who I just made bald because I was too lazy to add hair. It was at this point that I took a break for the day and hung out with my friends and went about my evening. When I got back to the animation the next day, I had a great idea for the middle section regarding the goalie. First, I decided to scrap the soccer player in the middle altogether and have him be at the end after the basketball player. I decided to then place a baseball player as a stand-in. I'm personally not the biggest fan of this sport, but I figured it would be the perfect addition to my collection. I forgoed the stick figure phase and moved straight to the boxy-ish outline as a way to make up for the lost time I had with the goalie. I pulled up a reference from the pitcher's mound to get a front look view of the form. I think it looks fairly good, so I was quite pleased with myself. I moved over to adding the details. In this case, my guy gets a cape. Whoops, I meant to say cap. My guy gets a cap.
No capes.
I started feeling better about my decision to scrap the goalie because of how much, better I thought this looks. The main issue now was that I completely neglected the main focus of this video, which is the ball. I spent the next 10 minutes or so moving this sad excuse of a circle around, and once I got to the end of the current animation, I made sure to let the ball fall past the guy. It's here where I would add the ball bouncing animation that started this whole video idea, and here's how it turned out so far. Looking back at it now, that must be one deflated ball because there's almost no bounce to it. I pulled an anti-Tom Brady and added some air to the ball to make it extra bouncy. I knew it was finally time to work on the finale, which is a soccer player taking a shot at, you, the viewers. In this way, you all become the goalie. I pulled up a video of a penalty kick from the goalie's side, and luckily it was just what I needed. Using the reference, the outline took maybe 5 minutes or so. After making contact with the ball, all that was left was to make the circle bigger till it completely covers the screen. I did some cleanup like making the lines more consistent with each other and adding an extra frame or two of the ball bouncing. I also added some thickness to the lines because I just think it looks nice. But now that I finalized the drawing, I wanted to quickly move on towards the coloring. The issue is I didn't think this far ahead and I have a pretty busy schedule coming up. As a compromise, I figured it'd be best to just color in the players and the ball and call it a day. So that's exactly what I did. I'm a Jets fan, which honestly gives me so much pain every season, but that's why I made the football player wear green. I have no clue about baseball, but when I think of baseball players, I think of white/gray uniforms, so that's where I went for that choice. For basketball, I chose the Lakers colors since they're pretty iconic and I also like LeBron a lot. Don't hate me please. And finally for soccer, I chose Tottenham for my man, Son Heung-min. I also made sure to have the ball slowly morph colors to match the sport, and with some other little additions like adding in smear frames, which I learned about in the Zuko video, but I was finally done. Here's the final product of my first ever and very short animation project. It's definitely rough around the edges, but I'm very proud that I was able to create something like this, since it seemed pretty much impossible to me a couple of months ago. I was pretty nervous to make this video because I knew that it would be very challenging, and I also kept doubting if I had the potential to even finish a simple animation. Remastering Avatar definitely taught me some tricks, but most I ended up not using. For example, I didn't really make use of the camera layer, but I honestly didn't really have a background. But yeah, I'm just rambling at this point. I've been really happy with how this turned out, and it frankly took so much less time than working on countless scenes for a single remaster video, so that was pretty fun. Don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't already, and most importantly, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.